Hey everybody, this is Petra Monica with the Rebel Stand, and with me today I have Melinda Kelly, who I'm excited to talk about. We briefly touched on some goals and dreams and things, so welcome.
Delighted to be here.
Yeah, so you reach out to me and say, hey, I wrote this book, but before we go into that, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, give them a little bit of your background.
Well, first I wanted to say it was so very lovely that you sort of put this out there. Hello, I'd love to talk with interesting people. And then I looked at what you had to say and I thought, well, I would love to speak with this interesting person.
Yeah.
And so it was very nice to see someone else who was looking at the idea of dreams and goals and how do we get there. And I'm Melinda Kelly. I'm delighted to meet all of you. I had a long, lovely, wonderful life in my family's publishing business. That's not necessarily where I wanted to go, but it's where I ended up. And there are a lot of reasons why we end up where we end up. And I came to a point where I had to look and ask those really ugly questions none of us want to ask ourselves. Do I want to keep doing this? Am I doing this for me? Am I doing this out of family obligation? And if I decide to change, what do I want to do? And where do I want to go? And how am I going to do this? And one of those questions is enough to make us all want to just pull the covers back over our head and say, you know what? It's not that bad. I can hang in another couple of years. I was fortunate to have a set of circumstances that I could in somewhat make the transition. And in some ways I was forced to make the transition with dealing with some family issues, which if you're in a family business, it's all family. Yeah. You never leave it. There's nothing more rewarding. There's nothing more delightful. And there's nothing more crazy making. But when it's good, it's magical. And when it isn't, you have other friends to go and hug you and let you know it'll be okay. You really are brilliant. They just can't tell you this week. So in my process to rediscover my dreams, I did what we all do, or I think most of us do. And I went and took a ton of courses and everybody had this, and this is what you should do, and how do we this. And ultimately I realized everybody in the room was getting stuff and I wasn't. So it can't be my leader. I have to be honest, it might be me. Mm-hmm. And in looking at that, I had to take a look at myself and understand, what am I doing that is stopping myself from moving forward? And one of the things, whenever I've mentioned it, people go, oh yeah, I do that, is we're so smart, we're dumb. And by that, we're sitting in a room and we're listening and we want to be here. We've committed time, we may have committed money, we've committed resources, and we're listening, and they start, we're like, well, I know that. Well, I know that. Well, when are they going to tell me something I don't know? And we're so busy being full of ourselves and what we know that they suddenly drop a pearl of wisdom. And we're so busy being full of ourselves, we don't hear it and we don't take it in.
Yeah.
And it surprised me the number of people that said, well, yeah, I do that. And I thought, well, maybe what I'm experiencing is more common, but we just don't talk about it. And it helped me realize we all have things we don't realize we're doing that stop us or hinder us. And if what I've learned can help somebody, I'd be delighted. And that was the genesis for how I ended up writing. And what I was going to work on was writing, which I've been told I should do my entire life. But everyone will tell you why you shouldn't write. Yeah. There's no future, there's no money, there's no jobs, there's no this. And yet, at the same time, there are a lot of people that are making a very happy living and livelihood doing that.
I love that you bring that up, because my audience are definitely the creative type, right? They're the artist, the writer, the musician, anything that's art related, creativity related. And I know from my own experiences, well, you're never going to get rich from that. Well, it's not necessarily about being rich, right? That's one part. The other part is we just want to be fulfilled and follow the thing like we wake up and that's what we want to do. Doesn't matter how we get there.
And I so agree with you, because one of the things I feel that we've lost our track on is everyone defines success in terms of numbers. What did you get paid? What did you do? How many, all these things that really don't count in many ways. They count, but we don't talk about tangible success. The moment you complete something and you get to present it to the world and get to experience their impact, whether they like it, love it, hate it. Yeah. It's a connection, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
That's an intangible success, that you have fulfilled your dream and have created this conversation that goes on. We don't think about, as I said, we get so caught up in the one dimension of success. We don't think about collaborative success, where if we are all putting together a production like a play, each person is bringing their talent to mesh it and to improve and to bring each person to their best place. Mm-hmm. Or another one I think about is a collective success, where we are all taking bits and pieces. And I think of like musicians. Yeah. You've got someone who, as one person is writing and one person is adding the words, and suddenly you know whose voice would be beautiful with this. And that is pulling out of the ethers all these elements to make something that's going to be magical. And if you've ever sung with a choir or group, there is a moment when it's just perfect and you all know it. And you want to hold on to it, but it's enough to know that you're all feeling it at the same time.
Yeah.
Those to me are beautiful ways of success.
Absolutely. It's one of the moments where, you know, I'm interviewing amazing people, interesting people, as you said, and I just love doing that. Never imagined I would be doing it. But my partner was like, you know, you're living your dream, right? You do know that, like, you literally have made this happen. And I had to take that step back going, I am, like, I'm surrounded by the most incredible human beings. I get to speak to amazing people in the process and still do my own passion work, as I like to call it, right? Where I'm just like, oh, and we get so lost, as you said, in the numbers. And then there's that comparing the Steveses to the Joneses and to the Smithses, and instead of focusing on our own journey.
Mm-hmm. And what is the point of living a life doing something people think you should do? If you go into that, was it Whitman, Lives of Quiet Desperation?
Yeah.
This isn't supposed to be about slogging through or getting through. It's supposed to be about living.
Yeah.
And I'm out here in Los Angeles where everything is over the top and way too much. And yet you look at all these celebrities and you go, where is their happiness? Mm-hmm. And for many, it's in the craft, it's in the work, it's in working in plays, creating work for others, and all the awards and all that. It's all lovely. It's a chance to dress up and play adult. Sure. And go with people you like. But that's not why they do it. Because I think, what is it? It's 3% of actors make fantasy money, and the most of them are in it for love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's true for writers as well, right? Writers don't necessarily start off writing to be famous and rich. They write because, well, they have this innate calling to do it. They can't help themselves but to sit down and get the words out. That money and the connections, it's sort of like a byproduct of the thing that they're doing. Because I certainly know a few authors who are not famous by any means, but they're making an amazing living writing books because they're doing their passion work.
Sharing their beliefs or their stories.
Yeah.
Or there's something primal in wanting to tell stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
and touch. And oh, I had a brilliant thought fly through my mind and fly out, which is I think this is so very important, and it's a hard thing to take in. Just because it's effortless or good for you doesn't mean it's effortless or good for others. And when something comes easy or effortlessly, we don't tend to trust it or believe it's really what it is.
Yep.
And that's a very hard thing to accept or to realize.
Yep.
And yet, if you can sing, people are like, oh, but creatives, artists, it's a gift we've been given, and we need to not diminish it by thinking this is what everyone has. This is our unique gift.
Absolutely. I totally resonate with that. I went to a show this past weekend, and I had a silent auction with art pieces. I'm a wood burner, right? That's my art form. That's what I use. And all I saw, and I'm not against paintings. Like, I even bought one on a silent auction that I won, right? Because art is beautiful no matter what medium. But I was like, oh man, imagine if I would have put a piece in there, because that would have been the one thing that would have stood out. Right? And I think for creatives, I think we're told from a bigger picture that we need to stand out, because otherwise you're not going to make an impact. But for some of us, we don't even think about it. We just, again, take a wood burning into an art gallery and you're like, what? That's different. So I stand out in that form automatically. But we don't always think about that we actually stand out with whatever craft that we're choosing, because we go against mainstream.
Well, and unfortunately, we all have this little voice within us. And I don't know how we get rid of it. And I don't know how we stop giving it to the next generations. But this voice that criticizes first and praises second. And I don't know if that's a survival mode, because if you think about it, our poor little Neanderthals out on the prairie, if you popped up, somebody might eat you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a way that we literally are wired to protect ourselves, but the greatest joy, the greatest joy is in the moment that you risk it and it happens, and you exhale and go, we did it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely, from a psychology perspective, a primal part where we have safety, security is leading us first and foremost, and we have to figure out how to maneuver this world with it when we're trying to also be creative at the same time. And I say this, I have a degree in accounting. I don't actually enjoy accounting, but I have a degree in it because it was going to provide for my family a really good income every single month, and we were going to be safe and okay. Well, I'm no longer doing that work, right? Because I can't, like, there's that, I can't sit in a cubicle and plug numbers all day. It's just not how I'm wired. I can't even do one job. I have to do multiple things in my business for clients because I can't. And so I battled what you talk about. I battle this constantly. Well, and because I also went back to school to get a degree in counseling, which work that I love, but lean more towards the coaching because I can just be more direct with you without having to worry about stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe I need to go back to work and get a job. And everything in my body is like, don't do it. Don't do it.
No, because then you lose you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, I love how you said that, because one of the things that I put in my book is, if you are a cowboy and love the wide open spaces, if everyone tells you to go to the city and get a job, you're never going to be happy.
Right.
It's against everything within you.
Yeah.
And we talk about this idea of being safe. And yet, really and truly, what are our core needs? What do we really need? Mm-hmm. And the surprising thing is, it's not that much.
Yeah.
Now, there's what we've been told we need.
Right.
And once we get caught into that, then we go down a rabbit hole. But you know, some of the best times are the silly, simple things. It's not all the dress up. It's having friends over for dinner or a potluck or taking a walk with a friend. Those are moments of connection that it's not about going and doing the big stuff. Most people find that it's the little stuff in their life that is the weave that really creates a life.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Again, you know, I go to these music shows and I was like, well, maybe I should just interview the bands while I'm already here instead of having to book it online and all that craziness. Which I don't mind. Obviously, either way, I'll work either way with it. And after like 6 months, I was like, oh, this is really, really amazing because I get to catch them maybe before they make it big or while they're just getting started, and they can then look back on 5-10 years down the road on their first interview and go, oh my God, I don't know why I said that, but also realize how far they've come. Because we don't, and you mentioned on this, we don't recognize how much work we've already put in. And give ourselves credit. Like I'm the first one to say I never give myself enough credit. Like I just don't.
and every overnight success is years in the making.
Absolutely.
And what you don't realize is as they are starting out, you are giving them a gift of recognition.
Yeah.
And saying that there's something that within their work and them that has sparked in you that you feel you would like to share. Absolutely. And that is something, when someone gives that to you, you walk on air for a couple of days.
Yeah.
You can walk on air for a year, but you give them that incredible gift.
It's really one of my passions and that's why we're having this conversation, is to highlight people that are following their dreams and goals, no matter how big or little or whatever, or how different. That's probably, if that was a drug, that's my drug, is to highlight and promote other people. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to be real. I mean, I love doing my art and I love writing and all that stuff, but talking to people and sharing what they have to say about their work or whatever, and how they get through the difficult days that's, I live off that. That gets me through the month.
But I think you bring up a really important point, is people aren't creative in a vacuum. You don't just write. Because when you write, you're also seeing the world as this beautiful ballet going on in front of you, mm-hmm. or that the majesty of the natural world or of the art that's in front of you. So if you are creative, it isn't just in one dimension. And so it's not surprising that you would find to express yourself through your woodwork, but that also you can see the value in someone else's creative process. So it makes sense that when you're creative, it's across many platforms.
Oh, absolutely.
But we pigeonhole instead of really celebrating that we're multidimensional and we're fabulous.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, that sounds sort of self-aggrandizing, but it really isn't. It's just true.
No, you're absolutely right. I don't know where it started from, that going to high school, going to college, getting a job, retire, and then die, frankly, is the way we're supposed to live. And it's one of those things that my entire body will revolt against it. Because, you know, when I work for myself, so it doesn't matter, but if I were to retire at 65, I might be too old to do the things that I wanted to do when I was 30. Like, why can't we just, live now, do the things now, stop waiting for the perfect time, the perfect day, for the right money in your bank account. I believe if you really want it, you'll figure out how to make that happen. It just depends on how determined you are.
And I agree. And, to me, there is, it's unfortunate that we have stopped societally valuing trades and handwork.
Yep.
Because if you think about the math and science and intuition that goes into building a structure, or God forbid you have a plumbing problem, there is a maze of things within the walls that someone has to understand how to create.
Yep.
We have somehow lost the appreciation and respect that every profession gives to the other.
Absolutely.
And
I
so,
live with a handyman. Trust me. You know, the fact
you
that
know,
he can fix the electrical and the plumbing and put a wall up on the house, I wouldn't know how to do that. I wouldn't even know where to begin with that. Could I figure it out? Probably. But he's been doing this.
but
He and I just had this conversation. That's his life work. He didn't go to school for it. He's self-taught in everything that he knows. And I see the value, right? But other people can't because he didn't go to school for it. And I'm going, really?
you know, they talk about the apprenticeship of trades,
Yeah,
where you are learning from someone, and self-taught is learning from someone.
absolutely.
And, you know, we're such bargain hunters that we always want to pay 2 cents for something worth 200.
Yep.
And while I'm thinking of this, I saw the most wonderful cartoon that is so fitting here, and it's 4 panels. And the first one is the presentation of a piece of art and the smiles, and the friend is looking at it. And the next is, you know, it'll never sell.
Mm.
And the third is, well, I hope not. I don't know. What should I do? And the fourth panel is, well, if you want to give it away, I'll take it. Everything has a value, but we bargain each other to death instead of taking the moment to celebrate and to appreciate what each other is offering and giving. And that's from the arts to trades to anything. Yeah. And I would like for a mind shift flip to really value what everyone brings to the table.
I love that. I am so in agreement with it. So I know you reached out to me because you wrote a book. Tell me about the book.
My book is Finding Your Coach, Diving Deep Within. And it's my reflections on my experience as I was off to the great adventure and found out I wasn't getting on the bus. Everyone else was having a great time, but somehow I wasn't getting where I needed to go. And in the process, I came across a variety of what I call traits and tendencies that most of us have that we may not be aware of and that hold us back. And it doesn't matter if you're creative. It doesn't matter if you're in a work environment. We bring our baggage wherever we go. And one of the most common ones I can think of is if we don't understand our relationship with authority figures, it doesn't matter what we're doing, we're going to have trouble.
Oh, I understand my relationship with authority figures.
You figured out your answer and what you need to do. So when you react, you come from a pure place.
Yeah. I grew up in foster care since I was 2. So literally that's been a thing for me for a really long time.
You, first of all, my credit to you as someone who has thrived, perhaps in very rocky conditions.
I appreciate that.
And thank you for sharing that. And so most people don't have what you have. They have simple things. Yeah. But even the simple things can sabotage you. Mm-hmm. And so it's looking at things to sort of be able to take a self-assessment, because I really feel when we know ourselves, when we're true to ourselves, we can flourish.
Yeah.
And we can honestly say, gosh, thank you so much, but I don't think I'm a good fit. Or, you know, I really wish you would consider me for this area, or I would be the perfect person to do that. But if we don't understand where we resonate within ourselves, personally, professionally, artistically, creatively, we'll stay a little withdrawn, and then we don't get to our best potential. And so the other part is sort of discussing how have we gotten to this point where we no longer trust our own inner voices, how we've been given all these lessons about this person or that person, that there's always somebody else who has the secret. And yet the secret to us is always within us. It's just being brave enough to take a look.
Yeah. And it, for me personally,
And the last,
my intuition is probably the thing I trust 1,000%. And that was through a traumatic experience, which my message now is you don't have to wait for a traumatic experience to trust your intuition, right? Because you don't, like, looking back, I saw the red flags. I saw, oh, I remember thinking I shouldn't have done that. I remember I should have gone a different direction had I listened to myself, right? But it took, just real quick, my youngest son was born with a rare genetic disorder, and I knew something was wrong, and it took 4 years to discover what it was, right? And the minute he got a diagnosis, it was like I was validated. And I'm going, whoa. Which, that was my ultimate shift into the work that I do now. It's like, why didn't I listen to my intuition before? It literally took my son to make me realize I already have it in a wisdom center.
well, and I to that point, I was very fortunate to speak at the inaugural Her Story conference in Las Vegas last year. Awesome. And it's this idea of empowering women, future and forward. And I spoke about trusting our inner voice. And sadly, we all get shushed at a young age.
Yep.
And we stop listening to the power of our questions.
Yep.
And yet our questions, there's a reason they call it a gut instinct. And now I can't remember, there are two brains, but literally you have your cerebral, and your stomach is a mirror image with different aspects. So when people say it's a gut instinct, it really is your body telling you.
Absolutely.
But we haven't been taught to trust that. We've been taught to trust others. So we get shushed.
Yeah.
And so we get afraid to act, or we get afraid to believe ourselves.
It's one of the amazing things about being a parent to a special needs kid who's on the autism spectrum, because he doesn't have that. He just asks the question. Like, he doesn't have that filter. And it just, so I resonate with that, because I tell people he's my life coach, and people look at me like I'm nuts, because I'm like, no, his wisdom is subpar to me, where he's making me think. He's 16, you know what I mean? He makes me think about life in a different way, because he is just wired so very differently. Where I'm like, oh, I didn't look at that.
It comes out. Well, the question is so clean. It's neither good nor bad. It's just clean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So where can people find this book? Where can people connect with you?
Oh, darling, time has flown by, which has been just absolutely delightful. My book, Finding Your Coach, Diving Deep Within, is available on Amazon, as most of the world is. The other is my website is melindajkelly.com. And of course, I'm on all the resplendent social media, and would love to have you visit me on any of them. And I love that you're helping people find their goals, their dreams, and on their journey. And I think we need more of this in the world. I believe we need more of this world. We need to find the good and praise it. We need to remember how much we are united, rather than the division and the contradictions, that at our core, we all can make this place incredible. We just need to remember that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
More than welcome. And please, all of you, go share your art, your time, and your talent.